श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तन्न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। So from Veda Vinashinam Nityam we chant. Veda Vinashinam Nityam together. Shinam Nityam Yaenamajam together, okay? Together means I and all of you, okay? Again, Veda Vinashinam Nityam Yaenamajam Avyayam Katham Sapurushav Partha Kam Ghatayati Tikam Vasamsi Jirnani Yatha Vihaya Narani Grinhati Naroparani Tadha Sharirani Vihaya Jirnani Anyani Samyati Navani Dehi Nainam Chindanti Shastrani Nainam Dahati Pavakaha Na Chaidam Vetayantyapaha Na Shoshayati Marutaha Achedyo Yamadahyoyam Akledyo Shoshya Evacha Nityas Sarvagatasthānuhu Achaloyam Sanatanaha. Enough. So we are seeing this verse. Where is that verse? We were in the middle of that. Bhashya. Yeah, here in the Bhashya, page 64, and which was verse number 18. Antavanta ime dehaha nityasya sharirinaha uktaha nityasya sharirinaha anashinaha aprameyasya yuktaha tasmat yudhyasva bharata. So that means these bodies are anitya. These bodies perish. These bodies subject to death and various vikaras, modifications that we'll see a little later. And so what does not die is nitya. Nitya means it is always there, and that nitya is as though housed in the anitya body. The anitya body-mind complex as though houses nitya, like even pot which is confined to space houses space. How is that possible? This pot space example tells us exactly how that is possible. And so this nitya, which is this consciousness, is anashinaha. Nityaha, anashinaha, both of them are similar, we saw, but it is to remove the various ideas of nityatvam we saw yesterday, some pravaha nityatvam, and kind of a temporary eternity, like how the sun, how long the sun lasts, how long the galaxy lasts, etc. So anashinaha we saw, nityasya we saw. Now what is left to be seen is aprameyasya, and Adi Shankara says aprameyasya na prameyasya pratyakshadi pramanaihi aparichedasya. Aparichedasya means that which is not limited by, that which is not, as it were, conditioned by pratyakshadi pramana, by pratyaksha, etc. All the pramanas are included, not just pratyaksha, the 5 direct means of knowing, but also we have to bring in what other things? Anumana, arthapati, upama, anupalabdhi, together making up 5. So these 5 pramanas, these 5 ways of knowing, Adi Shankara says, is not under the purview of these 5 pramanas. And then the self cannot be determined. Therefore, it is aprameya. Mr. Nanu comes in. Who is Mr. Nanu? Purva Pakshi. The one who can easily say, can you please explain that? I don't understand. Then that would be easy to explain. But his head or her head is already filled with certain ideas, and those ideas are presented along with the doubt. So let us read what this person, why this person has a problem. Everything was going along very nicely. Along does this fellow come? Let us see. The Purva Pakshi says, Nano agamena atma parichidyate pratyakshadina cha purvam. So he says, pratyakshadina cha purvam means before it is established by the 5 means of knowledge, what? The Atma. It is established by what? Agama, Shastra. Agama means Veda. Nigama, Agama, these are all names of the Veda. So, asamantat gamayati iti agama, that which takes you to where? Your own destination, moksha, without fail. Asamantat means completely leads you. Asamantat gamayati iti agama, Nishchayena gamayati iti nigama. Both are same. Definitely leads you, Nishchayena gamayati, and asamantat gamayati leads you without any mistake, any leaving anything behind. It leads you to the truth of yourself. That's why it's called agama. Or if you take the first portion of the Veda separately, it leads you to the 3 purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama, agama. So that's why it's called Agama. So he says, Agama means Veda, Vedanta, both. Agamaihi, this is Agamaihi Siddham. So everyone says you can't know the Atma unless you expose yourself to the means of knowledge called Shabda Pramana. In other words, Shastra. Is it not true? Yes. So the Purva Pakshi says, wait a minute, Mr. Shankaracharya, you are contradicting yourself. You have just been dinning our heads with the idea that you have to only surrender to the Veda, and the Veda is the pramana for Atma. So you come to know of the Atma only through the Veda, and this is refuted. Aprameya doesn't mean that it is completely unknown. Adi Shankara is going to tell. So aprameya means it is known, but it is known wrongly. See, if I want to know the Atma, if I want to know I, should the I already be there or not? Yes. So the desire to know the Atma should be with who? With me. The one who is searching for Atma should be the desirer of the Atma. Then only I look for the pramana with the appropriate means of knowledge through which I can understand the Atma. If supposing the Atma was completely unknown, what would the world be like? We would all be going around asking each other only one question from day to night. Am I here? Am I here? Can you please establish me? Because I don't know. I don't know I am, so therefore I keep asking everybody, am I here, am I here, am I here? And also then because I don't know I am, then the Atma, knowing the Atma is not a completely unknown Atma, like a completely unknown country. We usually give the example of some unknown place, Timbuktu. Timbuktu is actually a place in Africa. But so that who has been to Timbuktu? At least nobody in this room. And so we don't know Timbuktu. Now, if I get a glossy book of what Timbuktu is like, and I have no plans of going there, what is it going to do to me? Nothing. It's not going to transform me. Much less is it going to reveal the truth of who I am. Timbuktu Tvamasi, then the whole Mahavakya should be, you are Timbuktu. But that is not going to do me anything. That's also another place, that's also another experience, equally finite as the ones that I am confronting. So Adi Shankara makes the important point that to desire the I, to know the I must already be there. And what kind of an I? Self-evident, self-standing, self-revealing, self-luminous I. Meaning, this I is not established by any pramana, this is the Purva Pakshi's question. The question is also asked in a very twisted way. You have to see what the question is. If I really just translate his question, it won't make any sense. We have to go inside and see. There is what is called in the Shastra, Gudha Abhisandhi. Like you have to go inside, you have to delve and then see the context of the question. And the context of the question is what? That Atma is not known by any pramana. Hey, wait a minute, what about Agama? What about Veda? In fact, I can even say, this Purva Pakshi is saying, that the Atma is come to know, I come to know of the Atma only through Vedanta exposure. No, see, this is such a subtle thing. People will think we are splitting hairs. We are not splitting hairs just for the sake of it. But these are all subtle ways in which the Ajnanam sits, and it has to be cleaned out. Like the Ajnanam sits like cobwebs in the head. And you see the cobwebs, if you see, you don't see anything. The cobweb, the spider is very clever. It could make a cobweb on the floor. No. Why? tomorrow it will be swept away. It knows. Therefore, it puts the cobweb where? On the ceiling, in a hard to reach place. So why? Because it knows we are lazy and we are not cleaning every day there. Simple. And so then finally when there is Deepavali or some other new year or something, spring cleaning, every part of the thing is gone. By the time that corner of the ceiling has become generational property for this, ancestral property for the spiders. So many generations have come and gone. So like this, like the cobweb, sitting there for a long time, the areas in the antahkarana, in the head, are filled with gaps in the understanding and are filled with, what is that called, vagueness, error in the understanding, and they have to be cleaned out. So the Purva Pakshi in the Shastra is a brush. We use the Purva Pakshi as a brush to clean out the cobwebs of non-understanding, wrong understanding, which has got a mainstay in the head. So the Purva Pakshi's contention, did you understand? I'll take it as a no. Let me repeat, okay? The Purva Pakshis, don't go by the translation, it will not become clear, it will obfuscate it further. And in fact, I had double thoughts about sharing this or not, because then we become translation dependent. Don't go by the translation. The Purva Pakshi's contention is that the aprameya means it is not an object of pramana, but he says it is an object of agama. Agama pramana, only you know this. You know this only, the Atma is known only by the Veda, by Vedanta. Adi Shankara refutes this. And let's see what he says. He says no. Why? Because there is Atma, then only I have a desire to know it. That's when I go to the Veda. That's all the thing is. Don't overthink this, okay? Na Atmanaha svatas siddhatvat. Since the Atma is self-revealing, then it doesn't need the Agama to show that you exist. You don't need the Agama to show that you exist. Siddhehi Atmani pramatari pramitsoho pramana anveshana bhavati. So pramana anveshana, self-enquiry and enquiry into the pramana is happened when? Self-enquiry is possible only when there is a self to talk about. And that self I should know. Wrongly or rightly, I should know at least basic thing about the self. What should I know? It exists. Iti. This much I should know. If the self is not at all there, then how will anveshana means vichara, enquiry take place? How will pramana vyapara, how will the operation of pramana take place? Timbuktu do I know? I don't know. Then if I don't know, then how will I have a jignasa to know Timbuktu when I don't even know of its existence? Even heaven, which I don't know firsthand, is described in the Veda, so I know of its existence, and then a desire to know heaven, go to heaven, etc. arises. So, in other words, an object of desire cannot be unknown. An unknown thing cannot be an object of desire. To desire something, it must be known, either directly or remotely, through somebody telling something or a book describing something. So, Valley of Flowers. I don't know Valley of Flowers. Oh, it is there on the way to Badrinath. Wild flowers. It's like a riot of colors. September, October, it blooms. Just in time for the next 3-month course. So like this, if you hear of it in a book, then only the desire to go there and experience those flowers or see those flowers arises. If supposing I did not even hear, somebody you take from France or some other country, they have never even heard of Valley of Flowers, and then so how will they have a desire to know? They will not have a desire to go to Valley of Flowers or to know the Valley of Flowers. So Adi Shankara's contention is that swatas siddhatvat atmanaha. Because the Atma is self-evident, then only there is a desire to know. In other words, he is making an important distinction. Atma is not established by the Veda. or Vedanta. The Shastra does not and cannot establish the Atma. Why? It is already there. It is already known as existent. It's redundant for the Veda to establish something that is self-revealing. So that which is self-revealing does not need to be established. Why? Because there is only two ways to come to know something. Either you know it by itself, it is Svatah Siddha, or it is Pramana Siddha, or you take the recourse of the Pramana. Everything in the whole universe is Pramana Siddha, not Svatah Siddha, ever. There's only one thing that is Svatah Siddha, Aham, I. And if the I was not Svatah Siddha, no matter how many Shastras came and told me some things about myself, it would not make sense. Because I myself don't know the existence of myself. So the desire to know the Atma as Satchidananda is born only when the Atma is first understood. Somehow, wrongly or rightly, it has to be understood. First, before wrongly or rightly, it has to be understood as there, as existent. So the Shastra does not establish the Pramana, and Adi Shankara says this very beautifully. Na Atmanaha Svatah Siddhatvat. Siddhehi Atmani Pramatari. Siddhehi Atmani. When the Atma alone already exists, then only Pramatari in the knower. Pramata. See the first three Siddhehi Atmani. What is that called? Sati Saptami. And then Pramatari is the regular seventh case. We have to, that is not part of the locative absolute. So the first two words, Siddhehi Atmani, absolute locative construction. It has nothing to do with the seventh case. It just means when the Atma is Svatah Siddha, then Pramatari, in the Pramata, in the Pramatuhu, in the knower, Pramitsoho. Pramitsuhu means the one who is desirous of knowing the Pramana. Pramitsoho, like Jignasoho, Pramitsuhu. So, Pramana Vyapara Ichuhu, Pramitsuhu. So, then only in the person who is desirous of operating the Pramana, desirous of knowing it through the Pramana, then only Pramana Anveshana Bhavati. Then only there is a self-enquiry through the Pramana. Because the self already exists and I know that the self exists, then only there is Pramana activity to understand the self correctly. Then only the Pramana activity takes place. The Pramana activity cannot take place. I need not read a book or listen to a lecture about the Atma when I don't even know Atma exists. So that is the idea. So then, nahi purvam itham aham iti atmanam aprameya paschat prameya parichedaya pravartate. Nahi atmanam kasyachit aprasiddho bhavati. Let's take the last sentence first. Nahi atmanam kasyachit aprasiddho bhavati. Nobody, even the person living under a rock, they may not know the news, they may not know anything. They are just completely ignorant of everything. That they don't know, the self is not unknown to them. Nowhere, no one can say, I don't know the self. That is the second sentence. The first sentence is, what is that? Yeah. Nahi Purvam itham aham iti atmanam aprameya paschat prameya parichedaya pravartate. Pravartate goes to act, goes to a certain engagement or activity. So, aham itham means I am of this nature. Without having this idea, nobody will go and engage in the object of knowledge, which is the I. So, first I have to know I am, and I am is partial knowledge. I am, I know I exist, and then I come to certain conclusion. I am ... Fill in the blanks. What would you like to say? Idiot, donkey. Yeah. I am incomplete. I am a fool. I am full of guilt. I am full of regret. This is what the fill in the blanks takes place automatically. This is how I fill the blanks. And do I like what I have filled? No. To correct that only I look around, I do some pramana anveshana. Is there anybody I want to be contradicted. I don't want to go away thinking that I am a monkey and I am an idiot and I am incomplete and I am a samsarin. Who is a samsarin? The one that is in samsara. I am a samsarin. I have shoka, moha. Who likes that? Who says that proudly? I have lot of shoka. Nobody says that. This is not something to gloat about. This is something intolerable. So when the Swatas-Siddha I is which is in the form of partial knowledge, joins my experiential understanding or wrong understanding of the I, then I get things like I am sad, I am depressed, I am angry, I am upset, I am no good, I am a loser, I am a failure. No matter what I do, I will never succeed. These conclusions bother me. If they didn't bother me, I wouldn't go for the Shastra. Nobody who is not bothered goes for the Shastra. Oh, but then you are just talking to a few of us here. What about the teeming millions outside? Yeah, this life they are outside the ashram. Next life they may come in and take some courses. We don't know. It takes some time. Because the person is very dogged. The ahankara is very determined. The ahankara is very determined to keep doing and expect a different outcome. Keep doing the same thing and expect some other outcome. So the ahankara is determined to DIY, do it all by itself, and the ahankara is determined to produce happiness by producing money, by producing name, fame, children, whatever it is. And only after it understands the futility of trying to know the infinite by gathering more and more of the finite objects, then only it will come to pramana vichara, enquiry into the pramana. Otherwise it will not come to pramana vichara. For pramana vichara to happen, the Atma must be known. Rightly or wrongly, it should be known. And so the I is always partially known. One part of the I is known. I am, because that you cannot shut up the I am. Aham aham iti sakshat sakshi rupena bhasate. Asti kaschit swayam nityam aham pratyaya lambanaha avasthatraya sakshi san panchakosha vilakshanaha. So there is something that is there, swayam, swatas-siddha it is, and then nityam, it is always there, and how it is dependent upon the I cognition. So it is known to me as I. It is the truth of all three states, sleeping, dreaming, etc. It is the truth of the five koshas. And this is the I, the Viveka Chudamani says, and then this I, therefore, before Vedanta is partially understood. Only I am. This is understood. Just like any other existent thing in the world that's not very clear, and here we have to bring in our example. What is our favorite example? Rope snake. Something is lying there. I see it. That's why the twilight, it's always the example is set in twilight. I see it, but I do not know what it is. The fear overwhelms me and I come to the wrong conclusion, it is a snake. When the flashlight of the mobile phone lights up the object, which is the flashlight of the Shastra, in what is exemplified, then I know the truth of the snake. The snake is indeed Rajju, rope. And the whole thing was an aropa. You see how, our sages knew there would be a word called rope. That's why they had aropa. Aropa came before rope, okay? Yeah. So this is the aropa. The The aropa happens because there is already fear. Fear is due to Atma Ajnanam and not knowing myself, but the self cannot be completely unknown, otherwise no pramana will work. Self is partially known without pramana. There is something there, I know that, but what it is I don't know. And since that other part is not known, I make the error of mistaking it for an idiot. Snake, whatever. Since just like the rope is mistaken for the snake, so too the Atma is mistaken for samsari, for finite, for all these, mistaken for what it is not. So what does the Shastra do? The Shastra does not establish the Atma. Why? Atma need not be established. What does the Shastra do? Removes. It is Nivartakam Shastram. It removes all the things which are associated with the Atma because of Atma Ajnanam, which are not true, which lead to sorrow. It removes everything. And that is why the Shastra has to be studied. It removes. And it is Nivartaka, Nivrityatmakam Shastram. Nivritti means it is Nivartaka. Nivartaka, Nivartate, removes. Removes what? All these wrong conclusions it removes. That is how the Shastra becomes a pramana to know the Atma correctly, in the right way. This is what he is going to say now. So, Shastram too, but the Shastra Antyam Pramanam. We have to stop there. It's the final authority. Meaning what? Anything else comes after the Shastra and tells the Atma is two-legged, four-legged, etc. Do not consider it. Why? The Shastra is the ultimate authority. Oh, you just sit here and say it's the ultimate authority and you expect me to swallow this pumpkin. Why not there be another authority? Because it is in keeping with your own desire. What is your own desire? To be full, to be happy, to be free, to not cry all the time, to not come into wrong conclusions all the time. That is your desire, and not only your desire. You ask anybody, anywhere, it's a universal desire. It's a universal desire. Therefore, what the Shastra says is the ultimate authority because it is in keeping with the universal desire. It's not in keeping with some individual ragadvesha. But because the ragadveshas, what is the difference between this desire for moksha and ragadveshas? Ragadveshas are self-manufactured, cultivated desires. Moksha is an uncultivated desire. The desire to drink, is it cultivated? Yeah. Depends on what the drink is, of course, but I'm just talking of water, okay? The desire to drink water, is it cultivated or uncultivated? Uncultivated. The desire to eat food, cultivated or uncultivated? Uncultivated. Desire for cable TV, cultivated or uncultivated? Cultivated. You see the difference already. So the desire to eat, uncultivated. Desire to eat laddu, cultivated. Desire to be protected from the elements, from cold and rain and all this, uncultivated. Desire to be free, uncultivated. That's why it is universal. It's an uncultivated universal desire. This first thing we have to understand. Second thing is, for every uncultivated desire, there is a solution here and now. Atraiva. Right here, right now, there is a solution. It's like somebody says, I am hungry, and then you say, in heaven there is plenty of food. If you tell them that, they will send you to heaven just now. That's what will happen. They'll be so angry, they'll send you to heaven. So, when the baby comes out of the mother's womb, milk is available. Baby has to drink. It is available. You see all the National Geographic pictures of animals being born. How immediately they go to the mother's milk. They know somehow, instinctively it's there. Similarly, air is needed to breathe. The desire to breathe, of course, uncultivated desire. And so the baby coming out of the womb doesn't think, up till now I have been breathing via the umbilical cord through the mommy, and now I am going to be outside of the mommy, and so I better carry an oxygen cylinder. No, it just comes out. It doesn't pack a sandwich. It doesn't bring an oxygen cylinder. It just comes out, opens its mouth, cries, air goes in. Otherwise, the doctor will give a little whack and then it will start crying and the air naturally goes in. Hunger, food is there. Air, desire to breathe, air is there. Necessity to breathe, air is there. Protection from the elements, possible. Caves are there even if there are no buildings. That's how the caveman and cave woman lived. So similarly, moksha is also uncultivated. And so for this uncultivated desire also, the solution is right here, right now, in the form of pramana vyapara, pramana vichara, an analysis, pramana anveshana, in the form of analysis of the pramana, operation of the pramana. That's why it's the ultimate pramana. There is no other thing, because it is fulfilling that which I really want, not only me, everybody wants. So the garden variety raga dveshas, they are all what? Cultivated. Human made desires are raga dvesha. Ishvara made desires is the desire for moksha. This is the thing. This is the distinction. So antyam pramanam, what does it do? Atadharma adhyaropana matra nivartakatvena pramanatvam. So this pramana, this antyam pramana, the final authority, what does it, how does it get pramanyam? How does it get the nature of being the ultimate authority? Primarily by adhyaropana matra nivartakatvena. It gets the status of pramana by being a remover. What does it remove? Adhyaropita ideas. The ideas that have been aropita. Aropita means as though superimposed upon the I, which is free of all those ideas. I am an idiot, I don't want this, I can't have this, I am a victim, I am the doer, karta, bhokta, pramata, all these things have to be wiped away. And so it removes that which has been superimposed. Who superimposed it? I, ahankara. Why? Because I only knew, just like partially the rope was known, the partial knowledge of the rope led to the seeing of the snake that was not there. Similarly, the partial knowledge of the eye leads to the conclusion that one is incomplete, that one is apurna, that one is small, that one is lacking, that one is samsari. These notions are removed by which Shastra? That is what is called pramana. It's pramanyam or pramanatvam. It gains the status of being a pramana because it is engaged in the removal of nonsensical notions about the I which are not correct. And then, so pramanatvam atmani pratipadyate. So this is how it is a pramana. Natu, not by ajnata arthajnapakatvena, not by making known something that is unknown. So, like even the what is that? When you shine the light on that object, what is happening? The snake which doesn't belong is removed. In its wake, the rope becomes evident. So, but then it's not a complete example because we don't need the light of Shastra to make the Atma evident. The self-evident Atma, by mistake, has piled upon itself wrong notions. The wrong notions being removed, the nature of the Atma as all shines, as limitless shines. And then he gives the Shruti also, very beautiful Shruti. Tatha cha Shrutehe, Shrutihi. What is that? Yat sakshad aparokshad brahma ya atma, yah atma sarvantaraha. So in the Brihadaranyaka, there is a very nice Mahavakya, Sakshad Aparokshad Brahma. This Brahman is Sakshat, means it is ever present. You don't have to go in search for it. How is it ever present? As the self-illumined Atma, self-evident Atma. Sakshat, and then what is it? Aparoksha. Paroksha means remote. Pratyaksha means evident. Is the Atma Pratyaksha? No, because it's not an object. Like Pratyaksha means, I would say this is Pratyaksha. Atma is not like this case, which is Pratyaksha. So you cannot say Atma is Pratyaksha. Is it Paroksha, far away, remote? No. So it's neither Pratyaksha nor Paroksha. So you have a new word for it, where you just negate the word Paroksha. Aparoksha. Sakshad Aparokshad Brahma. Shruti Vakya, very beautiful Shruti. And then so he says, Yasmad evam nityam nityaha avikriyascha atma tasmad yudhyasva yuddhat uparamam makarshihi iti arthaha. So if you look at that verse, which verse was that? Tasmat yudhyasva bharata. The last pada says, Tasmat, therefore, yudhyasva. It's like a command. Fight, O Arjuna. So, here what is being talked about by the Lord is yuddhehe, from the yuddha, uparamam. Uparamaha means cessation of fighting must not be done. Why? Because you are already engaged in an action. If you are engaged in an action, you continue. That is the purport of this Tasmad Yudhyasva. It is not meant as an injunction. Therefore, the Gita is not a Karma Shastra egging Arjuna to fight. The Gita is not Pravrityatmaka making Arjuna fight. It has no agenda to make Arjuna fight. It is its basic agenda is to reveal the Atma as a non-doer, as a non-bhokta, as a non-knower, as none of these things which I thought it to be. It is Moksha Shastra, not Karma Shastra, and Adi Shankara is very aware of that. And wherever this word Tasmad Yudhyasva Yuddhaya Krita Nishchaya, he will add his little commentary here, just like this. Nahi atra yuddha kartavyata vidhiyate. Vidhiyate is enjoined. What is not enjoined? Na vidhiyate is not enjoined. What is not enjoined? Yuddha kartavyata. The fact that you have to go fight, you must go fight, it is not pronounced here as an Vedic injunction. Yuddhe pravritte evahi asau shokamoha pratibadhaha tushnim aste. In fact, he was already engaged in the war. Yuddhe pravritte Arjuna. So this Arjuna, Yuddhe pravritte, when he was, this is Yuddhe pravritte, Sati Saptami, when he was engaged in the war, then only Shokamohadi Pratibadhaha, becoming obstructed by sorrow and delusion, he sat down in the chariot, Tushnim Aste, sat down quietly. He was already doing something. So then, please carry on. This is how Lord's talk is. Rather than, you must fight. Atma is akarta, but you must fight. Contextually, does it make sense? Atma is a non-doer, is a non-experiencer. Atma doesn't do anything. And you, Arjuna, are the Atma, Tattvamasi. Okay, get up, fight. This is a non sequitur. It doesn't even make any sense. So here it's more of a casual talk, meaning you were already fighting here. You were in the middle of the war, remember. The kettle drums had been beaten, the conch shells had been blown. Each one's conch shell had a big sound, terrible noises they made. And then the war had been declared. And suddenly, Nakakshe Vijayam Krishna, the Rajyam, the Bhoga, Sukhanicha, Kinno Rajyana Govinda. Crying, he sat down at the foot of the chariot, not foot, inside the chariot. So, weeping, he sat down. So that means what? That means you are already engaged in it. Complete the task for which we are here. Let's not forget the arrows. As I'm giving you this Upadesha, what is happening? The arrows are whizzing past. You don't understand how much Ishwaratvam I have to expend to keep you safe here. You are not taking up your bow. You have left your arrows behind. The quiver is on the floor. Quiver means where you keep the arrows. Instead, you are quivering. And so, I have to first to give you this boost so that you complete the task at hand. You are already fighting. Complete it. So, this is how it should be understood. How should it not be understood? Gita is Karma Shastra. Gita is telling Arjuna to fight. Therefore, when we study the Gita, we should also fight. But there is no war. We are in peace time. Doesn't matter. Let's take up a fight. Let us fight about whatever we are passionate about. Let us save the spotted owl. Let us save the whale. Something will be there that is needing saving. Something or the other I can go and do this. Let us go fight somewhere. This is not the purport. The way the Shastra is not committed to either making Arjuna fight or making us do action. In fact, it is committed to revealing the actionless self. So, yuddhe pravrittehi eva asau shoka moha pratibaddhaha tushnim aste. So, the one who was sitting quietly, troubled by or completely blocked by shoka and moha, for him tasya kartavya pratibandha apanayanartham apanayana matram bhagavata kriyate. So this so you fight is just anuvada vakya. Anuvada vakya he is going to say, meaning it's just a casual way of saying, please, now that the shoka and moha are gone, complete your task. You needed a little boost. I have given you this, and so this obstruction has gone from your mind. Now please fight. Tasmat, therefore, yudhyasva iti anuvada matram natu vidhihi. This is not an order. There is no order at all. Further, shoka mohadi samsara karana nivrityartham Gita Shastram. What is the Gita Shastram? What is the purpose of the Gita Shastra? To remove shoka and moha. That is the sole purpose of studying the Bhagavad Gita. Not to get some pep talk. Pep talk, if you want to get, there are many videos on YouTube you can take recourse to. This is not for a pep talk. The purport, the tatparya means tatparasya bhavaha, that which it is ready to reveal. The readiness that it is to reveal, meaning its purport, its commitment is shoka moha, which is the karana of samsara, to remove the samsara sakaranam along with its root, samulam, to uproot the samsara along with its cause, to make sure that for the person who has been blessed by the Bhagavad Gita, there is no more samsara along with its root. What is the root? Ajnanam. Ajnanam is the cause for shoka moha. Shoka mohadi samsara karana nivrityartham Gita Shastram na pravartakam iti. It is not to enjoin more and more karma. No. Etasya arthasya sakshi bhute richau aninaya Bhagavan. A beautiful segue into the next two verses. Very beautiful. So, etasya hi arthasya, this meaning only to show, what is the meaning? that the Gita's purport is to show the nature of the non-acting self, not to make the self act. Do you see the difference? Yeah. The nature of the Gita, the purport of the Gita is to reveal the nature of the non-acting self, not to make the self act. So, to that end, the two mantras from the Upanishad are quoted. Which Upanishad? Kathopanishad. You must have heard Hanta Chenmanyate Hantum Hataschet Manyate Hatam Ubhau Tau Na Vijanitah Nayam Hantina Hanyate. That came and now it has gone, but anyhow, doesn't matter. So, that you must have studied in the Kathopanishad. And then the other one also. What was the other one? Najayate mriyate va vipaschit nayam babhuva kutaschit, something like that. Then the last line is the same. Ajo nitya shashvato yam puranah nahanyate hanyamane sharire. To show the actionlessness of the Atma. The actionless Atma to show, these are all the things that has to be. These two mantras have been quote unquote borrowed from the Kathopanishad because the Gita relies heavily on the Upanishad, especially Kathopanishad. And so these mantras have been virtually plagiarized from the Upanishads. And why? Because Gita is Smriti. Smriti means that which is remembered in the human mind. The same Veda remembered and then written down in the human mind, remembered and then written down, is called Smriti. But then where will the Smriti get its material? From the Shruti. Where else? So therefore, these two mantras from the Kathopanishad are truly going to give the purport of the Bhagavad Gita. They are important mantras. So let us see the first one. Ya enam vetti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhau tau na vijanitah nayam hanti na hanyate. And then we already saw the original one. Hanta chet manyate hantum hataschet manyate hatam. So here what does it mean? Ya enam. Enam atmanam yaha. The one who sees this or knows this Atma, ya enam vetti. The one who knows this Atma as what? Hantaram. Han to kill. Hantru, killer. Hanta, hantarau, hantarah, hantaram, object case. Second case, singular, hantaram. Yaha hantaram enam vetti. The one who knows this as the killer. The one who thinks that the Atma is a killer, means karta. Yaha cha enam manyate hatam. The other thing is what? The Atma is not killer, but what? Killed. Killed means karma, bhokta. So the first one removes kartritvam from the understanding of oneself as Atma, and then the second one removes bhoktritvam, that the Atma is the done in by other people's action. Can the Atma be killed? No. Can the Atma be killer? No. Why? Because akarta. Not a karta, cannot be the killer, not an object of other people's karma. We already saw that. Cannot be cut, cannot be, nothing can happen to it. So therefore it is not subject to other people's actions. So it is neither the actor nor is it done in. It is neither the doer nor is it done in by other people's actions. So this is what the Atma is. And then what else? Ubhau tau na vijanitah. So whoever doesn't know this, that the Atma is neither the doer nor the what's its name, done in by other people's actions. Whoever doesn't know this, they do not know. What do that not know? Atma doesn't kill, is not killed. And this is something, here it is much more, pertinent. Here it is much more pertinent than in the other place. In the Kathopanishad there is no war going on. So this killing and all is purely to show that that the Atma is not a doer. By the logic of by the maxim of Prathama Malla Nyaya. Prathama Malla Nyaya, the logic of the village wrestler. The village champion wrestler, if you want to become the champion, what do you have to do? Knock that fellow off. That's what you have to do. You have to just have one fight. You don't have to fight with every person in the village. You have to fight with the champion. And here, killing is the ultimate and the most heinous act. And killing is the most disgusting act and the most frightening act, because it is all about endings and things coming to an end. So therefore, this is something which has universal distaste. And so if this karma the Atma is free from, then what to talk of all other karmas? If this karma the Atma is absolved from, killing, then all other karmas are nothing. In the Kaushitaki Upanishad, this Indra, there is a conversation between Indra and King Pratardana. Pratardana, the king, had done a lot of good works. He was a very noble king. And then when he died, the Upanishad says, he went straight to Indra Loka. And usually, Indra will send some people to receive. But here, Indra himself went to greet Pratardana at the gate, and then brought Pratardana inside with all the fanfare and said, "This is your karma phala, this is something which no one else has done, you have been the best king ever." And he showers him with praise and says, make sure your bungalow is okay, make sure you have enough servants to do all your bidding, make sure you have enough things, whatever you want, you please ask. And then he said, because I'm so enamored of you, I'm going to give you a boon. Ask for anything you want. Pratardana feels it's a trap. Why is it a trap? Because Pratardana thinks, I'm just an ordinary king. I won't know what to ask. What if I ask the wrong thing? And then I will just be ruining myself. I don't know what to ask. So he says, you please tell me what to ask, not only what to ask, but you please tell me what you would ask and give me that which you would have asked. Very nice. It's like going to some French restaurant where you don't speak French at all with your friend and the menu is presented. And French language is such that half the words are silent and the other half are not pronounced as it looks. So for a person with a Sanskrit background, it's very difficult. And I'm sure for the French person, the Sanskrit also must be equally strange. So here, all these things are there. You don't know what you are eating. You don't know what you are going to eat. What will you do? You will give the menu back to your friend and say, you order for me whatever you think I can enjoy the best. And so Pratardana does that very cleverly. Indra is terribly pleased. Indra says, if I were in your place, I would ask for Atma Jnanam. And then he says, okay, please teach me Atma Jnanam. I too want that. And then the teaching proceeds in a very, unique way. Unorthodox, we can say. So he says, Yahatu, Indra says, the one who is a Jnani, if he or she kills the father, there is no kalanka, there is no papa of patricide. Let's say he or she goes and kills the mother, there is no problem or papa of matricide. In fact, he says, not even no papa at all, not even one hair on the head is disturbed. This is how he teaches akartrutvam of Atma. Here also in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Kathopanishad, this whole killing thing is very has got some kind of a abiding presence here, because this killing is seen as highness, and if Atma is free of being killer and free of being the victim of killing, that means the Atma is akarta. It's not that the Upanishad is bloodthirsty, it is just to show that the ultimate action is also a non-action. And so उभौतौ न विजानीतः न अयं हन्ति न हन्यते. यः भाष्य एनं प्रकारं प्रकृतं देहिनं वेत्ति जानाति हन्तारं हननक्रियायाः कर्तारं यः च एनम् अन्यः मन्यते हतं देहहननेन हतः अहम् इति हननक्रियायाः कर्मभूतं तौ उभौ न विजानीतो न ज्ञातवन्तौ अविवेकेन आत्मानं अहं प्रत्यय विषयम्. Okay, so here yah, the one, enam prakritam dehinam. Enam means this person who is the indweller of the body, dehin. Enam means this Atma that is indwelling the body, not the body, but the one who is in the body. Adi Shankara reminds us, very beautiful. The one who janati, the one who understands, hantaram. Hantaram means hananakriyayaha, of the act of killing, the doer. The doer of the act of killing, the author, the agent of the act of killing, the one who thinks, and the cha yaha enam anyah, another person thinks, manyate hatam. Hatam means killed. No one can say I am killed, right? Can you say I am killed and have it be true? No. Because if you are killed, you cannot say I am killed. So Adi Shankara, see every small thing he notices. So beautiful, so sweet. He says, Deha hananena aham hataha iti manyate. Means the one who says, if my body were to be killed, I would be gone. The one who says. Not the one who says, I am killed. That makes no sense. So it has to be interpreted like this. If the body were to be killed, what would I be? I would be killed. Then these two do not know. Na vijanitaha, na jnatavantau. What? Atmanam aham pratyaya vishayam. So they don't know the self, which is consciousness. Aham pratyaya vishaya. Aham pratyaya vishaya means the content of the word I. They don't know that this Atma is consciousness. The truth of the word I, the content of this I, not the body mind sense complex, they don't know. Why? Avivekinaha. Because they are non-discriminatory in nature. They don't know how to discriminate. They don't know how to understand. They are avivekis. And then the gyatavantau atmanam aham pratyaya vishayam. Hanta aham hataha asmi iti dehahananena atmanam yau vijanitah tau atmaswarupa anabhignyau ityarthaha. I am the one who is the agent of killing. I am the one who has been killed. These people who think like this, when the body is killed, deha hananena atmanam hanta manyante, means deha hananena atmanam hanta aham hataha aham iti. So deha hananena means when the body is killed. When the body is killed, the one who says I am killed does not know the Swarupa of the Atma. The Swarupa of the Atma is not known to them, because the I is not as good as the body mind sense complex, which it as though lives in, like even the pot space as though lives in the pot. When the pot is destroyed, the space, needless to say, is intact, not destroyed. Similarly, when the body is destroyed, the Atma is not destroyed. Atma is like space, like all pervasive consciousness. But these people who think of the I as the agent of action of killing here and of the victim of the action of being killed, both of them don't know, because they make two big mistakes. First, they think of the Atma as the agent, Karta. Secondly, they think of the Atma as Bhokta, as the victim. Which is the truth? Neither is the truth. It is neither the agent of action, nor is it done in by other people's actions. And so, yasmat na ayam atma hanti hanana kriyayaha karta bhavati and na hanyate na karma bhavati ityarthaha avikriyatvat, because it is devoid of modifications. It is naturally devoid of modification. It cannot be modified, and so therefore any kind of, if that which is free of modification has to become an agent, then the fact that it is an agent, is that not a modification? Yes. So that which is actionless becomes an agent, means what? It is modified. Then the agent becomes a victim. Is that also not a modification? Yes. Knower, doer, thinker, hearer, experiencer, all these are modifications, and this is not possible for the Atma, because Atma is free of all modifications. So therefore, what is our problem? Dehatma buddhi. The body is equal to I. I am nothing other than as good as this body. This is our buddhi. And this buddhi alone is going to be refuted also in the next verse. We'll see. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi